Bemal, can I ask a question about our SAU functionality, about uploading, as an uploading mechanism?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the question?
Is it available? What's the question? Is it?
Okay, I'll just tell you what I can on SAU update. As part of the next cataloguing system upgrade, we are making some changes which will actually allow us to use SAU update to transmit records from Libraries Australia to WorldCat. That's our planned first implementation of SAU update. The standard and the software, though, should allow us to actually receive records also by SAU update. To my knowledge, there are a very limited number of library systems that actually support SAU update. If you have one of those systems or are interested in using SAU update as a way of updating the National Bibliographic Database, we would be very interested to hear from you. I can't tell you when we'll be ready to test, but we would certainly be interested if you are interested in using SAU update. Certainly, I'm aware that there are a number of sites in Europe that are using SAU update to transmit records to various European Union catalogues, and it's certainly something we're very interested in implementing. Pat, I think. No, wrong way. If you just tell me the question, Pat. No.
As far as the authority uploading is concerned, you were talking about the National Database Authority record number as the prime match point. Is that assuming that you are really primarily interested in Australian authorities? Would you consider a load based on the 010 or something like that?
We certainly would if we had Library of Congress numbers in our database, but
right.
We don't.
So that's what the limitation is?
It is at the moment, and certainly it's one of the questions that's been rattling around in my head as to how we get those LC numbers. And one of the things that we are interested in doing is not just maintaining our own authority file, but participating in things like the VIAF project that was mentioned before, and that may provide an avenue for expanding those numbers. The other number that I'm very interested in using is local system numbers for matching authority records. And that has a direct bearing. One of the recommendations coming out of the ISD, the Institution-Specific Data Expert Advisory Group paper, the report, was that we consider certainly the adoption of institution-specific data, particularly local system numbers, in authority records. So, yeah, extending those match points.
Sounds like a project to do some matching against the NACO file.
Yes.
Any other questions at this stage? Yes? Oh, there's everywhere. Great.
I was just wondering, talking about access to full text, has anything been done with all the wonderful information that was gathered in the whole of domain harvesting that was carried out a while ago?
That's a question we might have to take on notice. Certainly, to our knowledge, there hasn't been any linking of that information into Libraries Australia at this point. We, as Bemal has mentioned, we've got a project underway. Yeah, that's right, yeah. The single business project team is also investigating this whole area of actually linking, adding links into Libraries Australia and to link to full text. So they may be considering, I expect they would be considering the whole of domain harvest possibly as part of that. And there was
I've got
more.
a question here, Rob, of Bemal. I think the access to full text is a great new sort of initiative, and I'm wondering if you're intending to create products of those records with links so we can obtain those records and put them into our local systems.
That's certainly the way that we're doing it. We do want to have a facility to be able to let people get these records. So if, for example, by embedding the URLs, we would try to look at ways that can generate a product or trigger. I know sometimes the volume of update means that you don't want to necessarily trigger a massive download or trigger a huge product that you're not expecting, but we'd be looking at doing the work in a way that enables us to be able to extract that data and share it.
I was just wondering about the value of loading something like the records for Project Gutenberg into the AMBD. I mean, I know you're going to think about the record quality, but I'm thinking of things like authorities and so on. Aren't you kind of going to degrade the quality? I mean, if someone wants to find a Project Gutenberg title, they'll find it themselves, won't they? Do you really have to put them into the AMBD for them to be found?
It's actually interesting. It's sort of based on the question I asked Eric this morning. I do believe that there is some value in holding at least, we've scoped the project in various phases. First of all, we're looking to see what the overlap is. If there's ways that we can use the metadata on these sites to match data that is already in our database. So where we already have an item that we suddenly discover is, we just have the metadata for, but through comparing the metadata from Project Gutenberg, we say, hey, we can link to this. Yes, that is a great option to provide our users. Whether we then start to expand the coverage of the NBD and add more records for the Project Gutenberg project that were not traditionally on the NBD, that's something that we will have to explore, because there are some significant advantages to our users in being able to do that. And although there can be issues in terms of the quality of the data, we would still have, as I mentioned, that is one of the criteria that we will actually have to assess, because we don't want to necessarily make the issue of authority control any more problematic than it is, but at the same time, these are really valuable repositories that our users are interested in and can really facilitate their research, and also gives us additional contextual information for the authors that we already have on our database. So it's, I guess, a balance between how far we go in terms of the quality that we take and how useful that is in the overall context of our users.
Certainly the quality of the metadata, as Bemal's already said, is we're looking very carefully at the quality of the metadata that's provided from these sites, particularly as to how well or whether we can realistically use it to match up with existing records in the NBD, and more generally the data quality is an issue that we're looking at closely. And Janine.
So yeah, I'll repeat the question. You're wondering about what you're able to upload. Is it just updated records that you've done locally, or
new records?
Is it just authority records that we've upgraded, or ones that we've created locally that don't exist? Are we able to upgrade those?
You'll have
upload those?
Yeah. Certainly our desire is that you should be able to add new records that you create locally that don't already exist on the AMBD, and also to upgrade ones that you have previously added. So it should support those. The area that will be a little bit more complex is where we have things like complex changes to try and address, but